We are done.
Our big trip through South America has come to an end, and we are ready to share the best experiences we got up to in the past 5 months.
One thing we need to say before we start the video is that we were forced to skip Peru entirely due to the political situation that was going on there at the time we were traveling. We are 100% sure that there would be some Peruvian places on this list had we made it there, but we will definitely be putting it on our bucket list for next time, so we will give you our thoughts then.
Back to what we actually did do though, and there are so many amazing things we got up to. We have narrowed it down to a top 30 list. We'll count down from 30 to 1, and at the end of the video you will find out what our favorite thing to do in South America was. Let's get started. Number 30. Cocora Valley. South America has a lot of biggest, longest, tallest, highest in the world, etc. So we're going to start our list with a visit to the tallest palm trees in the world in Colombia. Quindío wax palm trees are the tallest palm trees in the world, reaching a height of up to 60 meters and can only be found in the forest of the Andes. The tallest of these unique trees are situated in the Valle de Cocora in western Colombia, next to the quaint little village of Salento.
Although it was a wee bit too touristy to be further up on our list, Cocora Valley was definitely worth a visit and something you should not miss out on.
Number 29. Take a tour of the Maracanã Stadium in Rio.
Mark is football crazy, so we couldn't have made a list without mentioning one of his favorite places.
As the home of the most successful international football team in history and the venue of 2 FIFA World Cup finals, it's hard to argue that the Maracanã in Brazil is the holy grail of football stadiums. Witness legendary Brazilian players' footprints, jerseys, boots and medals, hold a replica of the FIFA World Cup trophy, take a walk through the changing rooms, go into the stands and even sit in the coaches' seats. If you are a football fanatic like I am, this is a must-do in Rio.
Number 28. Take a stroll around some historical centers. Most cities in South America have what they call a centro histórico, which is usually where you will find the life and soul of the country's culture. Our favorites included Cartagena in Colombia, Buenos Aires in Argentina, Montevideo in Uruguay, Santiago in Chile, La Paz in Bolivia, Cuenca and Quito in Ecuador. Centro históricos are typically where you will find the amazing architecture, local markets, and street food vendors. If you're passing through any of these places, make sure to check them out.
Number 27. Catch a sunset overlooking the jungle in Minca, Colombia. If you're traveling in Colombia, you will hear about Minca so often that you just won't be able to resist going there. Apart from the waterfalls that this place is famous for, getting as high up as possible and catching the sunset over the sprawling treetops is a magical experience and one not to be missed. There are several hostels that offer sunset experiences, and it is the perfect way to unwind with a cocktail after a long day exploring Marinca Waterfall and Pozo Azul. Don't miss this place in Colombia.
Number 26. Visit the wonder of the world by taking a trip to Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio. Admittedly, it would be higher on our list if it weren't for thousands of tourists you have to squeeze through at this attraction. You may notice the trend in this list that tells you will like finding hidden gems, and this is most definitely not one of those, as it seems everyone in Brazil had decided to visit Christ the Redeemer on the day we went. Regardless, it is a wonder of the world and gives you unbelievable views of Rio. Give it a go, but we would recommend going early in the morning for the best chance of being able to move freely.
Number 25. Take in the views of La Paz on its incredible cable car system. We would never have thought that a mode of public transport would make it onto our best things to do in South America list, but here we are. This is such a fun thing to do, and the views of the snow-capped mountains surrounding the mesmerizing city of La Paz make it a very rewarding experience. There's a clever option to buy a round-trip ticket that will allow you to travel around the whole city on the system. This round-trip ticket allows you onto 6 interconnected lines that form a circle around La Paz. The ticket costs just 11 bolivianos or €1.50 and is a very unique experience.
For this reason alone, it makes it onto our list at number 25.
Number 24. Immerse yourself in the football cultures of Argentina and Uruguay. All countries in South America have huge football cultures, but we found Argentina and Uruguay to be particularly passionate about the beautiful game. We had the privilege of watching Argentina beat France in the 2022 World Cup final in a packed fan zone in Buenos Aires. There are simply no words for these experiences, so we'll let these clips do the talking.
So here we are in Buenos Aires, 2 days after Argentina have won the World Cup, and this is their homecoming party. It is the most mental thing I've ever seen in my life. There's like military jets flying over us, performing tricks, fireworks that sound like bombs going off. The streets are absolutely packed with people, and it's just, I don't have another word for it, it's just mental.
Unforgettable, right? Across the Rio de la Plata in Montevideo, take a trip to Estadio Centenario to witness history right in front of your eyes. This stadium hosted the first World Cup final in 1930 and even holds the original World Cup trophy presented that day in its museum.
Number 23. Stop off at the geysers of southern Bolivia. It was quite surreal to witness this amazing area of volcanic activity at Sol de Mañana geysers. Neither of us had ever seen anything like it. A geyser is a rare kind of volcanically charged hot spring that is under pressure and erupts, sending jets of water and steam up to 10 meters into the air and leaving behind this gooey, greeny-blue gunk in its craters.
It's maybe an important note that the sulfur can actually be quite damaging to your health, so when you're getting that picture beside the geysers, make sure you don't get too close for comfort.
The next two places on our list are in Rio de Janeiro. You can really see how much we liked it there.
Number 22. Relax on the iconic Ipanema and Copacabana beaches. No things to do in South America list could exist without iconic Ipanema and Copacabana beaches. As a traveler, these two beaches are a must-go. Not necessarily because they are the most amazingly beautiful beaches in the world, but because there are no better places to go to experience the Brazilian samba vibe. On a sunny day, both of these beaches will be brimming with life. The locals love playing beach football, soaking up the rays, and of course relaxing with the tasty caipirinha. Beach is also something you need to try in Rio. Just be careful as they can be very strong.
Number 21. Take a cable car to the top of Sugarloaf Mountain. Staying in Rio, where there are just so many iconic locations, Sugarloaf Mountain is next on our list at number 21. You can actually take a cable car ride all the way to the top and take in one of the best views in Rio from up there. It isn't cheap, however, as a return ticket will cost you about €26 each, but we can assure you it's worth splashing out a little bit extra for. In our opinion, this is definitely one of the coolest ways to spend a few hours in Rio. From the top, you will get stunning views of the city's many beaches and also one of the best views of the Christ the Redeemer statue.
There are even bars and restaurants at the top of the mountain, so it was an unreal place to sit with a caipirinha or a beer and take in the sights of Rio.
The next one is for our fellow coffee lovers. Number 20. Tour a Colombian coffee farm.
During our tour, which cost just €8 per person, we got taken through the coffee production process firsthand and even made our own coffee to drink at the end. We learned so many fun facts about coffee in Colombia and our guide was very engaging. We know there are loads of options for taking coffee tours in Colombia, but we really have no problem recommending this one.
Number 19. Fall in love with fabulous flamingos. We had no idea we'd see so many flamingos on this trip, and we now love these gorgeous creatures. We saw hundreds of these majestic pink birds everywhere, from Torres del Paine south of Chile right up to the lagunas of southern Bolivia.
We actually liked seeing the flamingos so much that we decided to get matching pink flamingo tattoos because of how fond we grew of them.
Our favorite spot to flamingo watch was at Laguna Colorado in Bolivia. There were dozens of them here, and the red lagoon with the picturesque volcanic landscape in the background really made these moments special.
Number 18. Crawl through Acaiá caves on the tropical paradise island of Ilha Grande in Brazil. If you don't like cramped, dark spaces, then look away now and skip this entry on your itinerary. Although we loved this experience so much, it's actually kind of difficult to explain with words what it was like.
I suppose the best way to describe it would be that you have to crawl through a 60cm underground tunnel to make it to a wee patch of green water that is illuminated by the light coming in from underneath from the ocean.
it was nice.
And then if you put your head under the water, you can see the ocean in the distance. I told you it was hard to explain, and that probably didn't make any sense whatsoever, but just take our word for it, it is unreal.
Number 17, stand on the equator. If the case were hard to explain, this one is exactly as it says on the tin. Unsurprisingly, Ecuador means equator in Spanish, and visiting the center of the world on Mitad del Mundo is a novelty tourist attraction just north of the Ecuadorian capital of Quito. Even though this place attracts hundreds, if not thousands of visitors each day, it is still well worth the 30-minute bus journey from Quito to see.
Our advice would be to take a walk around the back of the main monument, as we find it to be way less crowded. There were literally no people there when we went around, and you'll find it much easier to take that much coveted "I'm standing on the equator" picture. Number 16. Hike through the jungle to a tropical beach in Tayrona Natural National Park. El Cabo San Juan is the nicest beach we went to on the whole continent. The 2-hour hike here makes it even more rewarding when you reach this paradise on the Colombian Caribbean coast. The only thing that makes the hike tough is the heat.
I'm wrecked, honestly I'm wrecked.
But if you can get over that, you will love your trip to Tayrona.
Once again, an important note, go early to avoid all the other tourists. Not that we don't like tourists, but just it's better when you're there on your own.
We did just a one-day trip into the park, but there are options to camp beside the numerous beaches, and we think that would also be a great choice. Either way, if you love lush jungles that lead to tropical beach paradises, Tayrona is most certainly the place for you.
We have reached the top 15, and it's time to add first proper hike on our list. Number 15. Take on the most challenging and most dangerous hike in Rio.
Okay, that is a dramatic title, but we're not exaggerating.
Pedro de Gave has the reputation of being an extremely dangerous hike due to the part of the trail that turns into more of a free rock climbing exercise rather than a hike. There are ways to limit the danger, like paying some locals to use their climbing ropes, but we were feeling quite adventurous that day and felt like attempting to scale the rock face without a harness or ropes. We made it, and to be honest, we think it was more dangerous coming back down. We're glad we did it, but maybe it is a good idea to pay those guys for their ropes just to be on the safe side. Whatever you choose, the view at the top is outrageous and well worth the tough hike. Breathtaking views overlook Brazil's largest favela, Regina, the statue of Christ the Redeemer, Sugarloaf Mountain, and the iconic Ipanema and Copacabana beaches.
Alright, if you've been watching our videos on our travels through South America, surely you'll be wondering where the Patagonia stuff is, and this is our first entry from the region. There may be more to come, but you'll just have to wait to find out.
Number 14. See the bluest water you will ever see in Torres del Paine in Chilean Patagonia. We took a one-day trip into the huge national park, but we are aware that more popular ways of seeing the beauty of Torres del Paine include hikes like the famous W&O treks that are a hiker's dream. On our one-day experience, we managed to squeeze in stunning views of Grey Glacier, hike up to an amazing viewpoint of Francis Glacier overlooking the bluest water you can imagine, and even made it to a picturesque setting to take in the stunning 3 towers with these flamingos. This was a very rewarding day trip and one we would highly recommend, even though it is not as popular a way to see the park as the multi-day hikes. Either way, do not miss this part of Patagonia.
Let's stick with Patagonia on our next entry. Number 13. Experience Perito Moreno Glacier in Argentinian Patagonia. This beauty is not only Patagonia's largest glacier, but it is also the 3rd largest reserve of fresh water on the planet, surpassed only by Antarctica and Greenland, and one of the only glaciers in the world that is not melting. It actually expands by 2 meters every day. This is one of those places that is hard to do justice to with a camera. You really need to see it with your own eyes to witness how enormous it is. Be sure to keep a close eye on the face of the glacier for falling icicles that crash from the ice into the water below. The best time to see this happen is in the afternoon. If you are feeling extra adventurous, you can even book a hike on the glacier itself, which we can imagine would be the best way to really get to grips with this natural wonder.
This one is for the thrill seekers.
Number 12. Ride a mountain bike on Death Road in Bolivia. This narrow, unstable road has drops of up to 450 meters on the left-hand side for 40 kilometers, and used to account for an average of 200 to 300 deaths every year back when it was the only route that connected the city of La Paz to the Amazon rainforest. At some points, you are forced to drive through some powerful waterfalls, and any lapse in concentration could send you tumbling off the edge. This is an exhilarating experience and one that just has to be on your South American itinerary.
Number 11. Hang gliding in Rio de Janeiro. We absolutely love this. After plucking up the courage to jump over this cliff, we glided over Rio for around 15 minutes, taking the views of Regina Favela, Christ the Redeemer statue, Sugarloaf Mountain visible in the distance. It was an incredible experience, and landing on the pristine white sand beach of São Conrado was the icing on the cake. There are lots of places to do this kind of activity all over South America, but we can't think of anywhere we'd rather have flown above.
So after all that, we are now into our top 10, and I think these are the places that will really hold a special place in our heart for a long, long time.
Number 10. Experience Baños in Ecuador. Ah, Baños. What a way to start our top 10. We didn't even know this place existed up until just before we made our way into Ecuador, but we are so glad we found this gem of a place. Baños is the adventure capital of Ecuador, and our favorite thing we got up to there was whitewater rafting right on the edge of the Amazon rainforest. Neither of us had ever done rafting before, and we had a huge smile on our faces from start to finish. Another thing you have to do when in Baños is to rent a bicycle and ride along Ruta de los Cascada for views of several stunning waterfalls. The best of which is Payon del Diablo, which is definitely the largest and most powerful single waterfall we have ever seen. Standing beside this monster of a waterfall is surreal, and the power is actually a wee bit scary when you're up close to it. Baños is special. Stick it on your list.
Number 9. Visit Iguazu Falls. With Brazil on one side and Argentina on the other, Iguazu is the largest waterfall system in the world, twice as tall and 3 times as wide as the famous Niagara Falls. Opinions vary on which side people prefer. We definitely had a better experience on the Brazilian side, but we can also see the appeal of the Argentinian side. One thing is for sure, that is that a trip here should 100% be on your South American itinerary. Good luck picking your jaw up off the floor after first catching a glimpse of this natural wonder.
Number 8. Mindo Cloud Forest. This is one of the least well-known places in our top 10, but we were absolutely blown away by the tiny little Ecuadorian town of Mindo. The town is actually located in a cloud forest, which is the perfect habitat for some exotic birds like toucans and hummingbirds. We were lucky enough to get to feed hummingbirds from the palm of our hands. This is something we didn't think we'd enjoy as much as we did, but these tiny little birds are just so interesting and we couldn't help but be in awe of them. We also spotted the native toucans playing in some trees right above us on a hike from Yellow House. Another incredible experience we did in Mindo was a nocturnal walk through the jungle. On the walk, the most exciting thing was when our guide put his hand into a tree and gently took out a huge tarantula to show us. We left Mindo with full hearts and an even bigger appreciation for untouched nature and seeing wildlife in its natural habitat.
Number 7. Concha y Toro Chilean Wine Tour. So if you don't know, I'm from Russia.
And I'm Irish, so we really like alcohol and we really enjoy doing tours of breweries and alcohol factories.
We knew we wanted to do something like this in Chile, and Concha y Toro completely surpassed our expectations. Ever heard of Casillero del Diablo? Well, this is the home of that very famous Chilean wine, as well as tons of others. We paid for the more expensive tour, which not only allowed us to enjoy the standard wine tasting, but also granted us entry to a wine and cheeseburger tasting session at the end of the tour.
I'm not sure we were happier at any stage of our trip than we were when we had these fancy wines and cheeses in front of us, with an expert telling us how best to indulge in them. Of course, we ended up a wee bit tipsy after all the wine tasting.
We're a little bit drunk now because we've had about 7 or 8 glasses of wine each. And somehow we had to find our way back to our apartment in the city centre.
What I really liked about this is that the bottles they make here, we'll be having them everywhere in the world. like everywhere in Europe you will find this Chilean wine, and that's amazing because we've been in the place where they make it, so must try it if you're here in Santiago.
Definitely an experience to remember. Well, we remember most of it anyway.
Okay, that last one was too easy and fun. Let's introduce something we really had to work hard for.
Number 6. Hike on Volcan Cotopaxi. Finally, another hike. Cotopaxi is the highest active volcano in the world, reaching a height of 5,897 meters above sea level, which is even higher than Kilimanjaro in Africa. Originally, we did plan on attempting to make it to the summit, but authorities there were worried about recent volcanic activity and it is illegal to attempt without permission. We did, however, make it to the glacier around 5,200 meters up and had an amazing view of the top. There was something so special about trudging up through the fresh volcanic ash to get a glimpse of the glacier and the summit not too far in the distance. To get to the base camp, we took a private tour from the main road into the national park, and we would definitely recommend this option if it sounds like your kind of adventure. We still have ambitions of climbing to the top someday, but it just wasn't possible this time. Nevertheless, it is an incredible experience.
Now we are into the top 5 things to do in South America. Here is where things really get interesting.
At number 5, we have one of the things that was at the top of our bucket list when planning the trip, and it certainly did not disappoint.
Number 5. Rent a truck and drive through the Atacama Desert in northern Chile. Can we go back? What a place this is! To have the freedom of driving your own truck anywhere you want really made our trip to the Atacama unforgettable. Other than the North and South Poles, Atacama is the driest place on Earth. It receives less than 1 millimeter of precipitation each year, and some areas haven't seen a drop of rain in more than 500 years. There is one thing we didn't really expect when we originally planned on driving through the Atacama Desert, and that was how unbelievably scenic the roads would be. We found it hard not to stop every 10 minutes just to pause and take a look at the ever-changing landscapes.
Number 4. Uyuni Salt Flats in southern Bolivia. Just missing out on the top 3 is a trip to the biggest salt flat in the world. If you've done any research on South America, it will be no surprise to see this place so high on our list. Everything about your time spent on the salt flats just feels like an outer body experience. From spending the previous night in a hotel made from salt, catching the sun come up over the horizon for a viewpoint on Cactus Island, having breakfast with your tour group on the salt, driving through the open salt flat with no sign of life anywhere as far as the eye can see, to having so much fun and taking the wackiest illusion pictures imaginable. You won't be able to help but think, this is why I travel. We don't have too many more words for this place. Unmissable.
Okay, top 3.
I feel like we need a drum roll or something.
Number 3. The Amazon rainforest. The Ecuadorian part of the Amazon rainforest is one of the most biodiverse places on Earth. Even though we encountered some problems that made us quite sad about what is going on in certain parts of this vast rainforest, it is difficult to explain in words how good of experience the 5 days we spent there was. Throughout our stay at the wonderful Anaconda Lodge, we took part in several amazing excursions. The best things we did in the Amazon included the visit to an indigenous family home where we learned how to play the traditional sport of blowgun and made our own organic chocolate. Hikes through the jungle during the day where we saw lots of native wildlife. A trip to Laguna Cayman where we spotted some speckled caimans, tipping down the river that was perfect for some bird watching, and of course a nocturnal walk on which we were able to get up close and personal with some bullet ants and even tarantulas.
Of course you can do trips into the Amazon in other countries like Brazil, Peru and Bolivia, but we couldn't recommend the Ecuadorian one highly enough, and it was a week we will truly never forget.
Number 2. Ibera Wetlands in northern Argentina.
Never heard of it? Well, that's why we loved it so much.
If you dream about finding hidden gems when traveling, then look no further than the Ibera Wetlands. It is the second largest wetland in South America, behind only the Pantanal, and a trip here just simply has to go on your bucket list. We saw way more wildlife here than we did in the Amazon. The reason it is ahead of the rainforest on our list is because Iberia is just one of those once-in-a-lifetime authentic experiences that you rarely find when traveling. Hikes through the wetlands and jungles, nocturnal walks, kayaking in a lake that is home to black caimans, and best of all, just look at all this wildlife. Capybaras, black caimans, marsh deer, wild hogs, ostriches, foxes, howler monkeys, and all kinds of majestic birds were just some of the animals we spotted in our few days in Iberia. This is up there with the best things we've ever done in our lives, never mind just South America, so it has rightly earned the spot of number 2 on our list.
Iberia has been beaten by what is quite simply the most unbelievable and natural attraction we have ever laid eyes on.
I'm just crying thinking about it. It was unreal.
Unreal. Which leads us to our number 1 spot, and officially the best thing to do in South America, in our humble opinion.
Number 1, Mount Fitzroy, Argentinian Patagonia. A hike to Laguna de los Tres that sits at the foot of the infamous Mount Fitzroy is top of our list for so many reasons. Part of the magic is that this is actually a tough hike and you really have to earn your reward. It's at least a 20-kilometer round trip from the trailhead, and the last 2 kilometers to reach the Laguna are steep and very challenging. But the views at the top are absolutely sensational.
We still remember the moment we made it to the Laguna so vividly. I think that image of Fitzroy will be ingrained in my head for the rest of my life. We've mentioned before that there are some moments that make you stop and think, this is why I travel, this is why I'm here, this is why I spend all the money, this is what makes the long journeys and hauling your suitcase around worth it. This was that moment for us.
It's also the only place on our list that made Asia cry, so for that reason alone it has to be top.
When you say words unbelievable or that you can't believe your eyes, but here's like, look at this perfect mountain and there's a perfect blue lake. Absolutely ridiculous how nature just made it, and to be able to see it, it's magical.
The glaciers on the mountain and the ice shining off the reflection in the water, and then this just surreal looking spiked mountain. Exquisite. So that is it.
I hope you enjoy watching, and leave us a comment whether you agree or disagree with our choices.
We actually felt a wee bit emotional when recording this video because we've just crammed so many amazing memories into the past 5 months of traveling through this amazing continent.
There are ups and downs and a lot of tiring days, but if you're planning on traveling in South America, we are positive you're gonna have something to remember, just like us.